Most people think evil wins because of monsters. We imagine cruel leaders, violent criminals, and people who enjoy hurting others. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer discovered something more frightening. He said that evil grows stronger because good people choose to stay silent. Bonhoeffer lived in Germany during the rise of Adolf Hitler. He watched his own country fall under dark ideas. People lost their freedom, neighbors disappeared, fear became the new rule. And yet, Bonhoeffer noticed something strange. Most Germans did not support evil. They were not all villains. They were normal people. Teachers, parents, workers, students, people who just wanted to live. So why did things become so terrible? Bonhoeffer's answer was simple: silence. When people stay quiet, evil becomes louder. He believed silence is never neutral. If someone is being hurt and you say nothing, then your silence protects the one causing the pain. Your silence becomes a shield for evil. Bonhoeffer said, "Not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act." Those words are heavy. They tell us that silence is a choice with real consequences. Think about it. When a child is bullied in school and others look away, the bully becomes stronger. When someone lies, cheats, or abuses power, and everyone stays quiet, the liar feels untouchable. When a government destroys freedom and the people do not protest, the destruction continues. Silence feels safe. It feels easy. But the cost is huge. Bonhoeffer watched as his nation stayed silent. People told themselves, "It is not my business." They told themselves, "I do not want trouble." They told themselves, "Someone else will speak." But no one did. And because they stayed silent, darkness spread. Bonhoeffer understood something deep about human psychology. We fear conflict. We want to fit in. We want to protect ourselves. Silence becomes a comfortable escape, but comfort can become deadly. Comfort can turn a whole society into a quiet army serving evil. Bonhoeffer refused to be part of that silence. He began to speak out through his sermons and his writings. He called out injustice. He warned people about what was happening. He challenged a deadly system, even though doing so put a target on his back. He believed that when a person stays silent in the face of wrong, they are choosing the side of the oppressor, and he decided that he would never choose that side. Bonhoeffer knew that speaking up would bring danger, but he also knew something even more important. Silence would bring much greater danger to everyone else. He looked at the world around him and saw fear everywhere. People were scared of losing their jobs, their freedom, their families, even their lives. Fear closed their mouths. Fear locked their hearts. It made many believe that if they just stayed quiet, the storm would pass. But Bonhoeffer understood the truth. When fear controls a society, evil leads that society. He taught that morality is not just about having good thoughts or kind beliefs. Real morality demands action. What good is a belief in justice if you will not defend the innocent? What good is a belief in truth if you refuse to speak it? He asked a powerful question. Who is helping the victim if the church only protects itself? To him, silence becomes a wall between us and our responsibility to others. It stops us from being human. Because being human means caring. It means stepping into the fight, even when the fight is scary. Bonhoeffer began helping those who were targeted by the system. He joined secret groups that protected the weak. He helped Jewish people escape to safer lands. He used his voice as a weapon against lies, but he did not stop there. As the violence grew worse, Bonhoeffer faced a painful decision, a decision that tore his heart in two. He believed deeply in peace. He believed killing was wrong, but he also saw that a powerful killer was destroying the world. He faced the ultimate question: should a man of peace allow a tyrant to slaughter millions? Doing nothing would mean joining the silence, and silence would mean being responsible for the harm that followed. So Bonhoeffer made a terrifying choice. He joined a secret plot to stop Hitler, even if that meant using violence. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. If we refuse to act against evil, then we are choosing evil. This choice changed everything. Bonhoeffer was no longer only a thinker or a preacher. He became a fighter for humanity. He risked everything, not for himself, but for others. He once said, "We are not to simply bandage the wounds of victims. We are to drive a sword into the heart of the oppressor." Bonhoeffer refused to be silent. He refused to let fear decide who he would be. But when you break the silence fights back. The government discovered that Bonhoeffer was not obedient. They saw his courage as a threat. They arrested him and locked him in prison. He was separated from his family, his friends, and his work. The cold walls of the cell were meant to crush his spirit, but they did not. Even inside prison, Bonhoeffer continued to write. He continued to think. He continued to speak through his words. He encouraged others to stand strong. He reminded them that even a small voice can shake a kingdom of fear. Prison tried to silence him, but he refused to give that silence power. Bonhoeffer believed something powerful about the human soul. No matter where we are, we can still choose what is right. He watched other prisoners. Many were broken by fear. Some tried to save themselves by pleasing their captors. Others gave up hope. They became silent not only outside, but inside their hearts. That is the final victory of evil, when silence enters the soul. But Bonhoeffer stayed awake. He stayed alive on the inside. He realized that the fight against silence begins in the mind, long before it reaches the world outside. He wrote about moral clarity, a clear understanding of right and wrong that does not change when pressure comes. He believed this clarity must guide us, even when everyone else is blind, everyone else is afraid, everyone else is silent. Because if we lose our moral voice, we lose ourselves. Bonhoeffer wrote letters from prison that would later inspire the whole world. He wrote about faith. He wrote about freedom. He wrote about responsibility. And he wrote about the danger of letting others think for us. When we let others think for us, we stop questioning. When we stop questioning, we stop resisting. When we stop resisting, we become tools of evil. He saw how propaganda could turn crowds into shadows, moving but not thinking. He saw how silence can hide behind excuses like, "It's not my problem. What can I do? I don't want trouble. Everyone else is silent, so I will be silent too." But Bonhoeffer warned that this kind of thinking destroys society from the inside. A society that refuses to speak truth slowly becomes a society where truth no longer matters. And when truth dies, humanity dies with it. Bonhoeffer's time in prison did not last long. The leaders of the regime knew he had taken part in the plan to stop Hitler. They saw him as a dangerous mind, a mind that could awaken others, and they feared his voice more than any weapon. On April 9, 1945, just weeks before the war ended, Bonhoeffer was executed. He was 39 years old. His final moments were described with a strange calm. No fear, no regret, only quiet strength. He had already made his choice long before that day. He died, but his message did not. Bonhoeffer showed that real courage does not always scream. Sometimes courage is simply refusing to be silent when silence is demanded. Sometimes courage is saying, "No, this is wrong," even when your voice shakes, even when you stand alone. His life leaves us with a question only we can answer. What will we do when we see wrong happening in our world? Because the danger Bonhoeffer warned us about has not disappeared. Silence still protects bullies. Silence still helps liars rise to power. Silence still stands with the strong against the weak. And in our world today, silence has only become easier. We scroll past suffering. We close our eyes to injustice. We wait for someone else to speak first. But Bonhoeffer reminds us that waiting is a choice, and that choice always has a cost. When we stay silent in front of cruelty, we are not innocent. We are involved. We add our quiet support to the oppressor. Our silence becomes the rope that ties the victim's hands. We must understand this truth. Evil does not need loud helpers. It only needs quiet ones. Standing up is not simple. Speaking out may bring trouble, but losing our voice brings something far worse. A world where evil walks freely and good people look away. Bonhoeffer calls us to act. He calls us to resist the easy path. He calls us to turn our fear into responsibility, because every time we choose to speak, We build a shield around the powerless. Every time we choose to act, we cut the chains that keep others silent. So remember his warning, remember his courage, and remember this. When we witness wrong and remain quiet, we become part of the wrong. Let Bonhoeffer's voice become our voice. Let courage become our response. Let silence die.